Hi everybody, it's Sean Healy again with Dragon Koi Consulting. Today I want to talk a little bit about clients and challenges that we have with their expectations when it comes to money. This is a sort of a tough one sometimes for particularly new business owners when you're doing your best to kind of make it, and clients want their money back. They want discounts, they want extensions, and they want to get not charged for cancellations. This topic came up in I was looking at the Pilates Contrology forum, and there was a new business owner that had asked a question about this, and there were a lot of very specific and very strong I guess recommendations on what to do or what not to do. Take for example 24-hour cancellation. There was opinions from don't ever let people off the hook to something that was a little bit more lenient. I want to give you my perspective on this, and I want to come from a business perspective. The challenge, I mean, it seems like it's all going to be coming from a business perspective, right? But the challenge with this is, as an owner, you are working so hard to try to make this business work. And you can't help but for it to become a little bit emotional and kind of like you take it personally. You got to keep in mind, this is all psychological. So, somebody that's coming in, generally they want good deals and they don't want to have to pay for something when they're not using it, which is understandable, but we have to have some sort of a structure and some sort of a standard so we don't get taken advantage of over time. Again, when we're looking at big picture and burnout, these are the things that just kind of add up over time. And so I have a few recommendations for this. The first thing is you want to make sure that you have a really good policy or clear policy on this. And I would highly recommend that with every new client you have a set of policies that you have them sign as part of their intake. I mean, it's pretty normal to do that. But really, policies aren't made for people when there's specific situations. Really, they're made for the troublemakers, right? So you have something to stand on. If you don't have a signed policy about refunds or about cancellations or about just generally how your facility works, when those things come up, you really don't have anything to go back to. One thing that we did when it came to cancellations, I think that there's some leniency with this. Personally, I think that you have to remember that you're dealing with a client and you're dealing with somebody that ultimately, big picture, you want coming for a long time. You don't want to have them do kind of the one and done package kind of a thing. So how do you create a situation that is kind of a give and take? In my studio, we've had studios for almost 18 years now, and this comes up all the time. It's never going to go away probably, but there's, I think, ways to work with your clients to be able to make it a little bit more palatable for them and give them an idea of really where you stand with this. First of all, it sort of depends on where you are in your life cycle of your facility or your studio. If you're very established and you have more clients than you know what to do with, you can be a little bit more strict with it. If you're a new studio, you might need to be a little bit more lenient with this to make sure you're maintaining the clients long term. So what we used to do is we had a get out of jail free card. I saw this in a number of different comments on the forum today. And I think it's a good idea. Get out of jail free. You can talk about this when they first come in, and you go through the paperwork. You make sure that they understand that there's a policy, and let them know that you're going to give them one get out of jail free card. So when they come in and they say, hey, can I cancel my appointment, and it's within your cancellation policy period, then you can say, remember, our cancellation policy is, let's say 24 hours, but I'm going to use your get out of jail free card today. So don't worry about it, no big deal. Just make sure next time you give us that 24-hour cancellation. It's a win-win thing. They don't, have this position where they're getting charged for something that they didn't do. At the same time, it gives you the opportunity to make sure that you remind them of the policy. The other thing is you want to make sure the policies are sort of everywhere. You want to, we had them posted. You have that highlighted. You can give them a copy of it when you give them the get out of jail free card. There's a number of things that you can do, but it has to be really, really clear. So in terms of cancellations, we always used to just give up, as long as it was the day before, we were pretty lenient with it. If it's the day of, whether it be you or, even more importantly, if it's one of your employees or one of your contractors, you're messing with their schedule and their livelihood. And that's important. You have to keep that in mind, and you have to communicate that to some extent to the client. So really, it's up to you. There's some gray area with this for sure, but if you want to be super strict with that 24-hour cancellation policy, the risk that you run with that is losing clients, is having them dig their heels in as much as you're digging your heels in, and having them feel like it's not a win-win situation. Again, it's all psychological. At the same time, it's sort of like allowing somebody to come in at 4:30 in the morning and letting them know that you'll meet them that one time. Well, once you open that door, the door's open. And so they're going to assume that you did it once, you can do it again. So you have to be really clear with what the expectations are and what the policy is, but you can also have some flexibility with it. In terms of extensions and discounts and things like that, I think that this can be a slippery slope. Extensions, I sort of had this policy that we really didn't have expiration dates. Instead of having that, so we had to do the extension thing, and we had to have that sort of potentially negative moment in time for the client when we say no, is we structured our business around consistency. We structured it around the expectation of coming in a minimum of once or twice or 3 times a week, depending on the client. If somebody had to cancel and it was the day of, as long as we made it up that week, then we didn't charge them. Or we could fill the space, we didn't charge them. So there's different ways to think about this, but at the end of the day, it's a business, right? If we take a step back, like I said earlier, and look at this from a business perspective and not a personal perspective, as long as we're making the money that we scheduled for that time, or can make the money, then it's probably okay. And you can create a situation where, you can say, hey, if I'm going to extend this, I want you to buy another package, or we need to be consistent. And really, to be honest, as a business owner, that's your responsibility to make sure people are consistent. In the studio setting, if people aren't consistent, they're going to ultimately fade away, and that's what happens. And they'll give you all kinds of excuses. Just the value goes away for them. So really, what you want to make sure of is that you're setting things up in the beginning before they get into any kind of a habit, whether that be the consistency of their schedule or the 24-hour cancellation. In terms of discounts, I would definitely make sure that you're looking at discounts as sort of far and few between. And whenever you do a discount, you have to make sure that it's very clear what your normal rate is. If you would do a discount every single time for somebody, they're going to again come to expect it. Better way to do it, which I saw in the forum as well, is package things. Have 5, 10, 15, 20-hour package, whatever is comfortable. The bigger package you have, you discount. You're guaranteeing probably a longer term commitment from somebody. You're not asking for money quite so often, so that can psychologically be a better situation. But at the same time, it can affect your cash flow. It could take anywhere from 3 to 6 months to go through a 20-hour package, depending on the consistency of somebody. At the same time, if you only sell 5-hour packages and somebody's coming in 3 times a week, they're going to be paying you every week and a half, and that can also kind of be a negative psychological reality too, to some extent. So discounts I would be a little bit careful with. You can run specials here and there, I think, depending on how your cash flow is, again, looking from a business perspective, but you have to make sure you're always, always, always thinking of the psychology of the client from a business side, from their side of things as well. So things like Groupon and Living Social and stuff like that in terms of discounts, I personally don't think they're necessarily worth it, because as was stated in the Contrology forum, that you have jumpers. You have people that are the fitness jumpers that'll go from place to place, and they really don't care about the deal necessarily that you're giving them, and they're usually ones that will not come back and repurchase. We did a number of these Groupon type things, and they never really worked out. I mean, they got us a kind of a bit of cash flow, but it really was not something the big picture was worthwhile. So you got to keep in mind, everything is psychological. At the end of the day, what you're doing with your clients, the Pilates aspect of things, or the fitness aspect of things, we have a tendency to think it's about movement, and surely it is. The technique and what we do is definitely about movement, but when you're dealing with clients and you're dealing with money, you're dealing with psychology and you're dealing with perspective. And so when it comes to any of these things, my recommendation would be to take a step back. Try not to make it personal, because it's really not. It may be egocentric on their part, and it may be taking advantage of your time, but usually from my experience, the reason people have this happen to them on a regular basis, at the end of the day, is because they allow it. So I think there's ways to allow it within your control. You shouldn't be allowing any of this out of your control, and because you're worried or because you're feeling bad. There's what's the right thing to do kind of a thing. Those people that you have problems with, the people that are troublemakers, are the people you have policies for, and those are the ones that you can stand up to and have a leg to stand on with a signed policy form. At the same time, you can also fire your clients. I mean, if they're real problems and they're causing you a total headache, you don't have to work with them. And I know that's a really scary thing for some people because it feels like you're losing business, and on some level you are, but those are also the people that are total energy sucks for you. They're the ones that are gonna keep causing the problem. Just make sure you're looking at the psychology behind it, not just the emotion behind it. Look at the business, take a step back, make sure you're looking at the long-term business, not the short-term irritant. And again, have policies, have guidelines, have structure to the way that you approach your business, and I think that you'll be fine. I think that you're going to always have troublemakers. You're always going to have people that are going to come in and challenge you with this stuff and always want the deal. Again, you open the door, you open the door. Whether you think it's one time or not, it's gonna be sort of expected, and all of us have this challenge. So I hope this helps. These are really great little things that every business owner goes through, and it's never going to change more than likely because people tend to be egocentric. I don't mean to be rude or discouraging with that, but it really is true. And so the more clarity we can have with the structure and the way that we run our business, the less times this is going to happen to you. So hopefully this helps. Again, if you have ideas and you want me to talk about them, bring them to me. That's awesome. Anyway, hopefully we can take this and learn from it and have a little bit less stress and frustration with those kind of clients that are trying to take advantage of the situation. So have a great day, and we'll see you next time.